Welcome back to the Green Talk, where we slow things down just enough to listen to the land, to the lessons, and to the people who have spent their lives paying attention to both. I'm your host, Misraim Mata, and today we are talking about something every single one of us in the green industry faces: stress. Not just human stress, but environmental stress. Poor soil, unpredictable weather, heat, drought, compaction, fatigue, and the landscapes that are expected to perform year after year. My guest today, Todd Colter, is someone who has been working to understand stress at the plant level, and more importantly, how to help plants to recover, adapt, and thrive again. He is the founder of MitoGrow, a company specializing in plant health solutions and biostimulants, with a deep focus on reversing decline and restoring resilience from the inside out. Todd, welcome to the Green Talk. How you doing today?
I'm great. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to an honor to having you in the show and just ready to talk about all the important things that we do in the industry. But before Todd, we start talking about products and science or solutions, I always like to start with the why. So two things. Where did your journey begin and what first pulled you into the plant health and the deeper side of how landscape works?
Sure. You're probably not going to hear a story like this, but not from the industry. I was from the energy industry. I live in Houston, Texas. The way I got into this industry was basically being a customer and in need to fix some mature oak trees. I had built a home in Houston, Texas. It was in a area where there were some very large 100-year oak trees, and over the course of the construction, it damaged the trees. The feeder roots were damaged. Nothing could seem to fix these trees. Spoke to several arborists, very, very renowned arborists around the Houston area. And they just said, listen, I don't think we're going to be able to fix these trees. And then one day I got a flyer on my door that my wife found, and it was a very scientific, almost like a research paper that said, "Hey, I'd like to help you restore your trees." Long story short, we did it, and after about 2 years, the trees completely recovered. The arborists couldn't believe it, and I guess I was intrigued at the time, and so I approached the guy that did the treatments. He was actually a microbiology professor, so he really knew his stuff, and I started inquiring as to, what are you using? Why aren't you using this in other fields? And that got me interested in the space. From there, I ended up purchasing the intellectual property to his potion, which made them work, and hired a team of scientists and turned it into a real company, a real brand, a real product that we started selling it about 2 years ago in January. So that's where I started.
Interesting.
Yeah, read a lot, and that's where the journey began.
Awesome. And I mean, you explained how you kind of enter into the space and whatnot, but when do you realize, at what point do you realize that poor soil and the environmental factors around landscape are really the roots of many of the problems that we facing now in the industry?
Yeah, well, looking back on it, I mean, I noticed it right away because but it didn't ring in my register in my brain that this was the problem, but obviously going back to my, the compacted soil, the severing of the feeder roots of these trees, all that environmental stress is what caused this decline. But then when it really resonated with me that this was an industry-wide problem, was really when I went and started visiting customers, telling them about our product, looking at their situations where they need to maybe reverse and decline, installations. I couldn't believe they were trying to install it basically in cement, very tiny areas, limestone, you name it, just poor soils. So that I think is where I really knew it was a problem. I'd always kind of followed agriculture in the sense because agriculture, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, but agriculture is where biostimulants became much more popular and prevalent. And so anyway, I just followed agriculture and saw that everyone's trying to get away from these flooding of NPK and the deteriorating of soils and a healthy soil biome. And so, that registered with me as well.
Awesome. And it's interesting now, make me think that kind of you are on both sides of the story, right? As a customer and now trying to fix the issue or the problems that we have. And your experience, what's the most common mistake the industry or companies are making trying to fix a declining landscaping?
Yeah, I think it's very common is they think that you can fix everything with water and you can fix everything with fertilizer because that's the only tools that they've really seen, aside from all the pesticides, fungicides. That's a whole nother, reactive kind of thing. But generally, anyone's going to throw some fertilizer at something or some water. And what's happening is the things that are in decline for sure, they can't uptake it. They can't get those nutrients. They can't get that water no matter how much you use. And I think that's the real disconnect with the industry.
Got it. And talking about the environmental stress hitting landscapes today, in your perspective, what do you think is the biggest one affecting the landscape?
Well, I think the landscapes, it's kind of twofold. The landscapes, when you're talking about installations, that's the most important time. You have to get that plant, tree, shrub established correctly and quickly. Um, and I think that's where we get off to the wrong start. And it's just downhill from there. I think if we can really concentrate on fixing that and concentrating on better establishment, healthier plants from the start, well, they're less prone to diseases. They can fight through weather stresses, and they can withstand that bad soil. And that's one of the things I think MitoGrow brings to the table is getting that quick establishment.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, definitely. For my experience and just for other, friends in the industry as well, many of us face poor soil conditions, right? It is really, really hard to find the perfect soil out there to work. So, how poor soil conditions amplify the stress, either with, or especially with heat and drought?
Yeah. Again, with the twofold approach. So just with installs, looking at installations, they can't if a plant has to go into a tree, whatever you're planting, goes into a poor soil, it's gonna just it's not a good environment. So they're gonna stress immediately. Now also just look at a street tree, for instance. Poor soils, having nothing good in them, none of the biologicals. What happens is it just compounds it. You get the heat, you get the lack of water, the soil becomes worse and worse and worse, and it's just you can't fight it. It's just an uphill battle.
It's horrible.
Is
It's really
it's
hard.
something you can't fight. And that's why. And we'll get into this, but MitoGrow, again, it helps so much with the establishment, but then it can reverse decline. And it really comes down to a big feeder root issue. The compaction, the soil, the poor soils, the droughts, it all festers. And what happens is these feeder roots that really the industry has forgotten about, I feel the nice absorption roots, call them feeder roots, the nice white roots that aren't even close to the trunk of a tree or they're on the outskirts. They often are just in decline. They can't grow anymore and they can't absorb water or nutrients. And what MitoGrow is able to do is spark those again, get those growing again. Where then the plant, tree, and shrub they can heal themselves by taking. It's like a human. If you can't eat, you can't drink water,
Yeah.
you're doomed, right? So that's what I attribute it all to, the feeder
Yeah, so
roots.
you already touched that point about what MitoGrow does. Instead forcing growth is focused on restoring function. But for the ones that are not fully understand biostimulants,
Yeah,
how would you explain that to them?
Sure. So biostimulants, let's approach it this way. I'm gonna bring in the agricultural aspect of it. They're always kind of ahead of the game, and then it trickles down to horticulture, arboriculture. But biostimulants are very popular in agriculture today. They are, how I would describe them is, you know, supplements. So let's draw this to the health industry. You get sick, you take antibiotics. Basically for the last 50 years in the health sector, just human health, you get sick and the doctor gives you a pill to fix something, right? Today, supplements are becoming much more prevalent. People are taking magnesium, people are taking vitamin B1, B12, all these different things to make your body more proactive so you don't get sick. And biologicals are a lot the same way. They're a beneficial bacteria. They're vitamins. I mean, we have vitamins in MitoGrow. They are humic acids, beneficial microbes, and all of those play a role at the cellular level of a plant to create and make them healthy. That's how I would explain it. But going back to agriculture, is biostimulants are popular. They're kind of hit and miss now. They're very inconsistent. That's where people aren't, really hooked on them. And the why they're inconsistent is because of twofolds. They come in water. Generally, by the time they get out to the farms and into the fields, a lot of the microbials are dead. MitoGrow's much different. Ours is a dry powder formulation, so we don't have to deal with that issue. Once they hit water, they're active. But I want to draw the conclusion to agriculture again. What agriculture did for the last 30 years is they grew crops with basically a mixture of IBA, connectin, and gibberellic acids. That was a way of improving yields. Nothing biological about any of those. Those are all chemistry.
Yeah.
But what happened then was the biology came into play. The what I just talked about, all the microbes and things like that. But what MitoGrow has been able to do is combine chemistry and biology. So we are seeing this today, outperforming a lot of just the straight biologicals in the ag sector.
Yeah. Yeah. No, excellent. And now talking specific about MitoGrow,
Yeah.
what role plays into combating this environmental stress and helping plants to recover?
So I would say the most critical component in MitoGrow really the industry is not utilizing is IBA, indothriobutyric acid. IBA, believe it or not, has been used for 50 years in the propagation of plants and trees. So a lot of commercial growers are very familiar with it when I talk to them, but not many arborists and not many horticulturists, landscapers have ever heard the term. But what the IBA does for us is it exponentially promotes rooting. It tells that plant, tree, shrub, immediately root, root, root. All these nice fine feeder roots come out. Then all of our biologicals, our bacillus, our mycorrhizae, we have endo and exto. We have lots of vitamins, B1, B3, B6. All of that can attach to the roots. And then that's when all of those good biologicals do their thing. And then they do several different things. And they start, some combat stress, some are incubating the plant, some are feeding the plant or feeding the mycorrhizae. All of it functions, but the deciphering factor that really kicks off and makes our product so consistent is the IBA that we put in the product.
Okay. Excellent. And this is something that a friend of mine talking before this time with you, he asked this question to me. And every time I talk to somebody else about biostimulants or organic products and whatnot, they always ask these questions. How this approach can fit into the traditional fertilization and pesticide programs, not replacing them, but as a support.
Yeah. Um, it's quite easy actually. Again, going back to if you're going to fertilize, you ask yourself, is the fertilizer is the food, is it getting uptaken by these plants, trees, and shrubs? Or is it just sitting in the soil and running off into our sewer systems or streams or just wasting away. The answer is odds are 50% of that fertilizer, if not more, is not making it up into those plants, trees, and shrubs. So what MitoGrow is going to do is get 100% of those nutrients uptaken into the plant. It's also going to do the same thing with the water. The water is just wasted. If it can't be uptaken, it's going to be uptaken, or it's going to be wasted, right? Uh, so that is, that's how one way it fits. We always like to tell people, use MitoGrow the same schedule you do as your fertilizer.
Adding the MitoGrow into your pesticides
Exactly, and no, adding MitoGrow into your fertilization system,
fertilization. Sorry.
in your fertigation plans. Yes, as far as the pesticide and the fungicide programs, you don't MitoGrow is not going to replace those, so you can just continue on doing your thing. But what you're going to see is if you use MitoGrow, fertilizer, and water, just those three alone, you're going to get less need for fungicides, pesticides, because again, a healthier plant, tree, and shrub is not going to need all those fixes. And we even see that with growers. Growers tell us, ever since they started using MitoGrow, they 50-60% less need for their fungicides. So that is the holistic approach. And MitoGrow, and really all biostimulants for that matter, you can never hurt something. Or at least I'm going to speak more so with MitoGrow. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go through all biostimulants, but I know MitoGrow, you cannot overuse it. And that is something landscapers love because they don't have to worry about something being damaged, right? With the fertilizer, you do. MitoGrow actually works, the opposite of fertilizer. You can't burn. It's very safe to use. So MitoGrow can be used at times of year when sometimes in parts of Florida, California, you can't use fertilizer. It's where you can then use your MitoGrow, and a lot of nutrients and stuff it's trapped in the soil. And when you just put MitoGrow on it, it the plants are able to find those nutrients again and use what's in the soil. So that's a way too.
Yeah, no, no, definitely, it's a good option for those areas like you said in California, Florida, where
Yeah.
we have restrictions, and always have an option to keep feeding the soil. It's important to have into toolbox per se. So, how quickly or how long it takes? Let's say a person start using MitoGrow today on their fertilization program. Let's say in Florida or on the summer, how long it takes to a person to start seeing the results. I mean, obviously, different things, right? Different factors can modify that time frame, but just an average idea of how long it takes and what are the first signs that people can see and identify as the results of using MitoGrow.
Yeah. So it generally depends on the species, and not really the species, but the size of the species. Obvious a flower, you could see that in really 3-4 days, a week. You're gonna see just fuller, brighter, bigger blooms in flowers. So you'll see that quickly there. In a mature 100-year-old tree, it might take a few months to really see it, but rather quite quickly from industry standards. That is what people have been amazed about this product is they always said, "Wow, it takes me about a year to see things in mature trees where I can see years and months."
Yeah.
Which really baffled people. And again, I really take goes back to what we're doing with that feeder root system. Oh, if you can absorb stuff quickly, you should be able to see a noticeable difference. And then that's the differentiator between MitoGrow and a lot of other products on the market. I will say though, MitoGrow is an enhancer to many plant and tree healthcare products in the market. So, like for instance, we get, a PGR like a Cambistat. People like to use it in conjunction with that, um, and see just dramatic enhancements to each other.
So you have experience using MitoGrow with Cambistat and having great results or
Yeah,
better results.
there's a There's a company, one of our better partners is a company called Adaptive Plant Healthcare in Arizona, and they use MitoGrow as the backbone of their entire plant and tree healthcare division. But they also use Cambistat in conjunction with it because it does a lot of good for the trees as well.
Hmm.
But MitoGrow, for some reason, people see the combination of both reacting better than just a Cambistat, or even
Okay.
that's what people are, at least what I'm hearing in the market.
No, no, good to know. Good to know. Do you think, now talking about the overall environment in the space, do you think that the industry is slowing, shifting from reaction based mindset to a plant health mindset? Because for the most part, right, that's reality. Most of the companies we just react to things, right?
Yeah,
So, what's your opinion on that?
I think they are. And again, agriculture is always the leader, and they are. So and yeah, the plant healthcare people for sure. The landscapers, I think they're just getting it. They're a little further behind. Plant healthcare people are a little more, they're a little bit more in the know with products like biostimulants and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I will say this, it's products like MitoGrow, biostimulants are gonna make landscapers' lives much easier. It's like this, use the biostimulant with the fertilizer, the water, start with the establishment, any new installs, and then, um, you know, maintain with it, and then, hey, if something flares up and you have a problem, then come bring in your fungicide, bring in your pesticide, bring it. But that's, I really think, the way it's gonna go, and it's gonna be an easier, more holistic, better way of doing things. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think that I'm with you 100% on the plant health care area is way ahead of landscaping or landscape companies. But
Yeah.
talking about landscape companies, you seeing resistance or just a lack of knowledge of this way, new? I don't want to say new way, but
Yeah.
this different way
It's
to do things.
it's 100% lack of knowledge. You know, I think it would help if these universities started talking about it more, the university extension programs, because everybody, and to be honest, from what I've seen as an outsider to the industry, the landscape industry is a more older industry. It's not the younger, it's not a 25 to 35-year-old. It's more of the 60, 70-year-old that is kind of looking to sell their company, or just has been doing it for 40 years the same way. It's not really resistance because it's just set in their ways. They just don't know about it. It's a lack of knowledge. But I look at it like technology, all technology. Not a lot of people had cell phones. Now everyone has a cell phone, right? It's generally people are followers, and once they start hearing about it, and they're gonna catch on, and they're gonna say, "Wow, I wish I did this a long time ago."
Long time ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think, or how you think we can connect this gap between the old generation and the newer generation of landscaping? Because yes, plant healthcare companies are there and they're very important and they do a great job, but also landscape companies more and more are doing this job as a part of their services to their clients. But you're 100% right, that gap between the old way and the new way, or the new technology available, how do you think we can fill that gap between those two?
I think the gap's easily fillable. It's gonna be, um, again, the education, the larger distributors like Site One, the Rainbows, the ArborJet, educating, and spreading the word, and stops, we're proponents of fertilizer. We're not against fertilizers at all, because that's the food and this all goes together. But I will say, like, some distributors, they're just used to selling fertilizer. And if they could start understanding how a biostimulant can enhance that fertilizer, then that's the missing link. Like that's when it clicks for people. And because again, we're just wasting a lot of fertilizer. It's just, it's just sitting in the soil. It's not getting up to the anywhere. So that's what I would say is just the education and people getting behind it, like the bigger companies.
Yeah, if there is somebody out there trying to listen to this episode and interested to learn more about MitoGrow, do you guys have anything out there online or face to face where you can explain them in more detail how they can use this product and their services and whatnot?
Yes, for sure. Our website's mitogrowpro.com. A lot of educational videos on the science, how it applies to everyday life. A lot of testimonials. They can always send an email to us. Be happy to have a follow up at info@mitogrow.com. We will be starting a partnership with Site One at the first of this year. So they are going to be distributing it and promoting it, and we'll be supporting their sales staff and spreading the word. So those are the different ways that we can learn about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to know. And from your position, from where you stand, what does the future of landscape management looks like for you?
So what I think, once people get a good understanding of biostimulants, MitoGrow being one of them, again, I think it all starts with a program. They're going to get a systematic program, an easy. Your life will be so much easier. Start with the installations. Get those off to the right start. Even though you have bad soils and we have bad weather, it can all be superseded with a biostimulant or something like MitoGrow. So start there, and then maintain with it. Maintain with it over the course of the year. Again, you cannot hurt anything with it. Add your fertilizers, keep watering, and get to the program where, okay, if you have a flare up or if you have to reverse some decline, then have a program for that. Again, MitoGrow fits in that decline, but if you have a pesticide, pest outbreak, then deal with it at that time. Odds are you're going to have less of those, and so it's just going to be a simpler approach to landscaping, I think. Yeah, and guess what? The result is happier customers, less complaints. I really believe this.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. If the programs are built correctly and thinking of from the ground up, and
Yeah,
then the results are gonna get there no matter what. And bottom line for every company, lands customers are the key, right? If the clients are happy with the result, everyone is happy. And
yeah,
Todd, yeah, good.
yeah. I mean, going back to that, I sometimes like to, talk about MitoGrow not even as a plant healthcare product. I like to say there's a return on investment with happier customers, contracts renewing. There's a lot of shuffling with contracts and especially in the commercial space. And if you can just do a great job from the outset, why would anybody want to leave you? I think that's important for people to be reminded of and have it just deal with less problems. What do you wanna go through and have less calls and just everybody smiling?
True, true.
Yeah,
Having less callbacks and more
yeah,
more steady results. Everything is steady for the most part, right?
that's
Customer
right.
retention and also keeping the quality and beautified in the landscaping in the properties the companies are maintaining. Just to do I don't want to say a brief, but like more on point. If someone is listening to this podcast to this episode right now and they want to start thinking different about the way they approach the programs of the landscape, where or how that people should begin.
I think, again, it goes back to the program, like, get a program. Get something that's systematic where you know exactly what to do at every level: install, maintenance, plant healthcare. Have your plan and execute it. I don't think it gets any more difficult than that. So that's, pick your products, get your plan and be regimented about it. Do it the same way every time. And if something's not working, then find a better way. Change up the program. But get that one in place where 97% of the time this is working. And don't scale away. Don't cut corners. Don't not do things. Especially if you're going to be proactive about things. You have to you have to do it to make the correct results come.
Yeah. Awesome. And before we wrap up things here, Todd, I always like to ask all my guests in an overall advice for either people in the industry with years of experience or the new generation just coming on board in the space, either on plant healthcare or a landscape companies, commercial, residential. Any advice for our listeners that's going to help them to keep having success on the industry?
Sure. That's a loaded question. I think how do I answer that? I would say, um, just don't give up. Don't stop. Don't. You're gonna go through ups and downs, especially like somebody owning their own business. I'll take it that approach. Don't get discouraged. There's gonna be highs and lows. Just don't stop. Just be consistent every day. And if you're consistent every day, you're going to rise to the top. But don't ever think about quitting or stopping. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Awesome advice. Thank you so much. And non-stopping, exactly what you did, right? As a
That's right.
customer and then just seeing the failure
That's
and then
right.
jumping in, right? Non-stopping. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And Todd, where people can reach out to you, how they can find you if they have more questions about it.
Sure. Email me. My personal email's Todd.Colter, Colter, mitogrow.com. You can use info@mitogrow.com. Those are probably the best ways. Our website's mitogrowpro.com. Any way of those. Reach out to a Site One representative. They can help.
Awesome. Awesome. And I wanna make sure to have those email address on this episode so people can reach out to you as well. Todd,
Perfect.
thank you so much for all the work you're doing and the most important for sharing your insight with our community today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And for to our listeners, thanks again for your time. Please don't forget to subscribe and to our platforms, either YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And we'll see you guys the next time. This is the Green Talk, the podcast.